The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone gives you a cup of water to drink, just because you belong to Christ, then I tell you solemnly, he will most certainly not lose his reward. But anyone who is an obstacle to bring down one of these little ones who have faith would be better thrown into the sea with a great millstone round his neck. And if your hand should cause you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter into life crippled than to have two hands and go to hell, into the fire that cannot be put out. And if your foot should cause you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter into life lame than to have 2 feet and be thrown into hell. And if your eye should cause you to sin, tear it out. It is better for you to enter into the kingdom of God with one eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hell, where their worm does not die, nor their fire go out. For everyone will be salted with fire. Salt is a good thing, but if salt has become insipid, how can you season it again? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with one another. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
I will not want to enter heaven and see maybe Sister Cha will like this, because you put out your eye in this world, or to see some of the brothers with their hands cut off because they had to do that in order to enter heaven, or to enter and see Sir Daniel on a wheelchair in heaven, because you cut all your legs preparing for heaven on earth. And this is what the gospel talks about, that if you find that this has become an obstacle to you, then you have to block it. But what it actually says is this, and listen very carefully. There is no sacrifice too big to avoid going to hell. Again, there is no sacrifice too big to make to avoid going to hell. You can put it the other way around. There is no sacrifice too big enough to make you enter heaven. Because in these places, in heaven and in hell, is perpetual happiness or perpetual damnation. And that is why Jesus emphasizes this and says that even if it means that you have to cut your hand, if your hand is going to cause you to sin, it's better to enter heaven with one hand. Okay? I mean, if you cut one hand, the other hand can still do what the other one was not doing. So it doesn't literally mean that you block off your eyes, because if you remove one eye, the other eye can still continue seeing what you are seeing. But literally, so it's not taken literally. But what Jesus would mean is that those things that you feel would become an obstacle to you entering heaven, or those things that you feel will become an obstacle to you knowing God or getting into a relationship with God, then those things we must be able to cut them off our lives. If there are videos that you watch that you know once you watch these videos it leads you into sin, then you must stop watching that video. If you know that there are some friends, when you sit with them, all the things that you talk about are the things that are not going to make you think about God, but the things that will lead you into sin, then you must avoid those friends. If you know that there are some of your friends who, when you are together, all that you talk about, or where you go, or whatever thing you do together, is not something that is pleasing to God, then you must let go of those relationships. You must let go of those friends. If it is, maybe Facebook can even be an example of them. If it is something that takes you away from people, it is something that makes you to become angry or become emotional towards people, if it is something that makes you not to even create prayer time, if it is something that takes you away from God, then you must just uninstall it. The simple thing which anybody could do would be to glance through your phone and see the applications that you have. There are thousands, millions of applications. If you go to the Play Store, you can just download many of them. Go through the applications that you have in the phone and look at them and say, which one is it that is taking me straight to hell? And which one is it that is going to make me get closer to God? That is just a simple example, but we might apply this to everything in life. There are always choices that we have to make. Things that we encounter with every day would either lead us to heaven or lead us to hell. And that is why we need a spirit of discernment in everything that we do. To always discern, whatever thing I'm doing now, is it going to take me to God or is it going to take me to the other path? And Jesus says, if there is something that you feel is going to take you away from God, then you cut it off. As simple as that. You can't say more than that. And then he talks, the Gospel of Matthew says, what profit will it be for you to gain everything in this world and to lose your life? And St. Teresa of the Child Jesus said that I would spend my life on earth preparing for heaven. Because when we think about this life compared to eternity, it is just like a drop in an ocean. So what is it in this life that we really would invest in? Money, wealth, good things that you can ever think of. These things are very finite. They are not going to last forever. In fact, Psalm 90 says that the span for us is 70 and 80 for those who are strong. And even when we manage to reach 90 and 100, then we are extraordinarily blessed. So the span is just from 1 to 100. And this 100 years determines where we go, whether to heaven or to hell. That's why Jesus says that we have to make the ultimate sacrifices now. We must care for ourselves, but we must also think about how we mislead others. Because it starts by saying, anyone who is going to mislead any little ones of these who have faith in me, it is better that a millstone is put around your neck and you sunk in water. Meaning that we must take care of ourselves and ask of those things that are going to mislead us, but we must also think of how we influence others, how we have become an obstacle to others, how we have become a stumbling block to others, how we have become those things that will lead others not to see God. And it's so important that we discern about these things every day. Every encounter we have, wherever we are, we must ask the intercession of the guardian angels that they will lead us away from the things that will lead us to darkness and lead us to the things that will lead us to God. Like I said again, it's no sacrifice too big to avoid us going into hell. There's no sacrifice too big that will lead us to heaven.